Today we had over 600 kids in the auditorium. It was during wind block. The 10th grade and 11th grade were chosen to come and hear Noelle's story. And it was just an amazing presentation.
Thank you.
A lot of great questions after she finished presenting. And a lot of kids stayed around. They were really, really taken by the story. So we try and have a program for the kids and then for the adults to keep the conversation going. This is going to be taped. It will be available on WinCam, so you can tell your friends. Once you hear her speak, you'll be blown away. You can tell your friends definitely to tune in and listen to the story because it is very heartfelt. So you have the floor.
Awesome. Yeah, and this is very intimate too, so pressure's off on me. Well, I got a great crowd looking through the camera, but it's an honor to be here with you tonight, to be able to share my story. I've been dealt with a lot of adversity in my life, and how have I been able to overcome that adversity? I've been able to narrow it down to 4 simple key lessons, and those lessons are becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable, applying yourself 100% to every single thing that you do, experiencing self-doubt and using it as motivation, and the last and most important is the importance of surrounding yourself with the right team, whether that be your family, friends, teachers, coworkers, anyone who could have a positive impact in your life. You want to surround yourself with them. I grew up in Londonderry, New Hampshire, so not too far away from here. I grew up with wonderful parents, and I also grew up with 3 older brothers. So all of you can imagine how my childhood went. I was never the girly girl my mother so desperately wanted. I was never inside playing with dolls. Instead, I was always out wrestling with my brothers in the dirt, showing them who the real boss of the family was. And that's really what drew me to sports to begin with. That's really what made me fall in love with being an athlete. I always wanted to be just like my brothers. In high school, I was a 3-sport varsity athlete. I played soccer, basketball, and lacrosse, and my dream was to play a collegiate sport. I then earned myself a Division I scholarship to play lacrosse at UMass Lowell. So once again, very local. And during my freshman season, I had a standout rookie year. I started every single game. I was the leading point scorer on the team. And I even earned myself a spot on the all-rookie team for my conference. And never did I think that that summer my life was going to change forever. About a month before my sophomore year, a couple of my friends and I decided we wanted to do one last vacation before getting tortured in preseason, so we decided to head to Martha's Vineyard. And when we got there, it was a beautiful Saturday morning, and the only thing we wanted to do was head to the beach. And we realized we had no form of transportation, and I remember seeing a moped stand and thinking, okay, I'll just drive a moped. How hard could that be? Because I'd never been on a moped, I'd never driven a moped. So we decided to rent them, and 1 minute we're on the main road, headed to the beach, having an incredible time, and the next minute I see a dump truck heading in the opposite direction as me. And because of the weight distribution and because I had no idea how to drive the thing, I just remember quickly losing control, veering left, and sideswiping the dump truck. And the next thing I remember is laying on the pavement, lifting up my legs, and realizing that my left leg was gone. It was completely severed on the scene. And I was completely conscious, and the first thing I thought of, it was sports, it was lacrosse. I didn't know who I was without being an athlete. I thought my life was over. I was laying there thinking I might as well just die because I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. Because it was on a main road, I had tons of people rushing towards me, and the man that was actually driving behind us actually took his shirt off to create a tourniquet, which stopped the bleeding, and is the only reason why I'm standing here in front of you all today. He saved my life. And I looked over at this other woman who was hysterically crying because she's seeing a lot, and it's very difficult for her to be seeing it and processing it. And I just thought, someone needs to tell my parents, someone needs to call them, let them know what's happening. So I looked over at this woman, I gave her the phone number. I was lucid enough because I was in shock and the adrenaline was kicking in, so I didn't feel anything. I wasn't in any pain. And so I hear her dial the phone number, and I hear her say the words, "You need to get to Martha's Vineyard immediately. I don't think your daughter is going to make it." Now, yes, I was in a very scary accident. My left leg was gone, but I never personally felt like I was going to die. So I looked at this poor woman who was hysterically crying and said, "Can you please calm down and give me the phone so I could speak to my mother?" She hands me the phone, and I just said, Mom, I'm fine. I love you. I lost my leg. I have to go. And I handed the phone back over. Imagine getting that type of phone call. And, you know, my mother never wanted me going on a moped. She actually begged me not to go on a moped. Mothers and fathers know best. Parents always know best. Always listen to them. It took me 19 years to realize that. So she was hysterically crying and screaming on the phone, and the only thing I could think of was, yeah, I really don't want to hear this right now. So I handed the phone back over. When I handed the phone back over, the EMTs had shown up, and they took the phone and said, meet us at Boston Medical Center. Your daughter will be med-flighted. So that's when I realized, okay, I'm going on a helicopter for the first time. Instantly started to panic. When I was in the ambulance, headed to the helicopter pad, I was asking the EMT all these questions, you know, where are we going? Are you going to be able to reattach my leg? Where even is my leg? You know, like I don't see it. I don't see it come in the ambulance with me. I'm just freaking out. And while I'm asking all these questions, the guy is actually cutting off all my clothes because that's what they do when you're in a really serious accident. And I think I was more upset about my favorite bathing suit being gone than my actual leg being gone. I mean, we know how valuable a great bathing suit is. And so I started screaming at this poor guy. Thankfully, it only was a 5-minute, 10-minute drive to the helicopter. And when I was on the helicopter, that's really when I started to feel pain. And we were, you know, however many feet in the air, and everyone has headsets. I did not get a headset, and it's very loud. I have no one to talk to, nobody to calm me down, and I felt like I was on that helicopter for 5 hours when realistically it was probably like a 20-minute ride. And when we landed and got to Boston Medical Center, I remember being wheeled into surgery, and I was able to see my parents right beforehand. And the surgeon came out to talk to my parents, and everything that was severed was below my knee. It was probably like right here. And the surgeon actually came out to tell my parents that they were going to be amputating my knee as well. They were going to be going higher. So that was the first time I realized I was going to be an amputee for the rest of my life. My parents are both giving me hugs, and my mom gives me a hug, and she just said, don't worry, I made a post on Facebook, everyone's praying for you. It's like, thanks, Mom. I need the whole world to know that I lost my leg from a moped accident. Thank you. She's like, no, nobody knows that. I just said, please pray for my baby girl. I was like, okay, so everyone thinks I'm dead. Perfect. Waking up the next day in the hospital, that's really when the emotions started to kick in, and I was hysterically crying in my hospital bed, asking my parents, what am I going to do with my life now? You know, am I going to be able to even walk again? Who is going to love me? Because I felt as though I was broken, and I thought that, you know, me being an amputee, I was never going to find somebody. And the next person to come and visit me, it was my head coach. And she didn't even take 2 steps in the door before I could ask, okay, what do I have to do to get back on the field and play? Because this cannot be it. I will not allow this to be the rest of my story. And she had a big smile on her face, and she said, Noelle, your position on the team is going nowhere, and that the team and the university are going to be behind you 100%. So hearing that, you know, I realized I wasn't alone in this. I had an incredible support system with my family, friends, teammates, coaches, a whole community to lean on. And I then had a lot of the Boston Marathon survivors reaching out, and a few of them coming to visit me. And hearing their stories and everything that they've been through, I could not sit there and feel sorry for myself. They were actually the first people to tell me that I was going to be able to play lacrosse again. I was going to be able to live the active lifestyle that I wanted to. I just needed to find the right prosthetic legs. And if they were sitting there telling me that I was going to be able to live the life that I wanted to, I was going to believe them. You know, nobody did this to me. I did this to myself, so I should stop feeling sorry, and I should do what I want to with my life. And that's when I made a vow that I didn't want to let this one accident define the rest of my life and define the person that I wanted to become. Getting home from the hospital was about the same time that everyone was returning back for fall classes and for preseason. And I remember laying in bed thinking to myself, you know, I don't want to be cooped up in bed all day, feeling sorry for myself while all my friends are at school and all my teammates are at practice. I want to show the support that my teammates showed me in the hospital. I think the best place for me to be recovering is with them at practice and just on campus and keeping myself busy. So I decided to drive myself back and forth every single day to practice without even having a walking prosthetic yet. I was on crutches, and I was also taking online classes, so I didn't get behind in my schoolwork. And I was also doing physical therapy 3 to 4 times a week. I never had time to feel sorry for myself. I feel like that was the best medicine that I could have given myself, was keeping myself busy, because if I'm not feeling sorry for myself, then why should anybody else? But what it did give me a lot of time to do was self-reflect about the type of person, the type of athlete I was before my accident. And I was that type of athlete, if you threw me into a game scenario, I will run through a brick wall for you. I will give it 110%. But if you put me into practice, I kind of just went through the motions. I always felt like I was too good to be there, especially when I got a scholarship. I felt like I didn't need to put in any extra work because I had already achieved the goal of, getting into college, and that transferred over into the classroom. I never really went above and beyond in my schoolwork. I always just did the bare minimum. And luckily I was still able to get into a great college, but I was sitting there thinking, what if I did apply myself? Would I be playing at one of the top Division I programs in the country right now? Would I have even lost my leg? Having all those what ifs were an extremely difficult and embarrassing feeling, and I was ashamed of myself. And that's when I made another vow that if I ever do get the opportunity to play again, I will give it 110%. I will never just go through the motions. About 2.5 months after my accident is when I finally received my everyday walking prosthetic. And I envisioned it as, okay, I'm gonna walk into my prosthetic office, I'm going to receive my walking leg, and I'm going to get my running blade, and I'm gonna be able to return to practice within a week. And that's when I learned about the costs of a specialized prosthetic, which is a running blade, and how insurance companies will only cover your everyday walking leg. They will not cover a specialized prosthetic. And they can range anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000, depending on what type of leg you want. I'm 19 years old at the time. I don't have that type of money, and I didn't want to bankrupt my parents every single time I wanted a new and exciting leg. So I felt as though my lacrosse career was over, because by the time I was going to be able to raise that money, I probably would have been graduated college by then. And that's when I learned about all these incredible foundations out there that support amputees like myself that just want to live an active lifestyle. So I started applying to a bunch, and I heard back from one, and they told me that they were going to grant me with a running blade, but it was going to be about a 6-month process. So returning to play my sophomore year, I knew was going to be impossible. And instead of, going home and saying, okay, I'll try again next year, I decided to create a different role for myself. I became a student coach. I was at every single practice, every single game. And I created a really great positive environment on the bench that we were actually very desperately missing. I never wanted to see people sulking or crying or complaining because they weren't getting enough playing time, because in my eyes, they had the opportunity to show up to practice the next day and to prove that they should be out on that field. I did not have that opportunity, so I never wanted to see it. I wanted everyone to uplift one another and cheer for one another instead of being selfish and only thinking about themselves, which is something that I used to do as a player. By the time my sophomore season was over, I had finally received my running prosthetic. And I remember being in my prosthetic office or my physical therapist office, and I was harnessed on a treadmill, and I could not run for more than 10 seconds at a time because it was so unstable, it was so uncomfortable, and I was very much out of shape. And I went home and I took my running blade off, and I never wanted to even put the thing on again. I was defeated, I was ashamed, I was embarrassed, and I just wanted to quit and give up in that moment. And I was having a pity party for myself, and the next person to come and see me in my room was my mother. And she just looks at me and she said, "Why are you so upset right now?" And I told her, I've been telling everybody that I'm going to be able to play again. Start of my junior year, I'll be ready. And if I can't even run in a straight line, how am I going to be able to play at one of the highest levels that you can play in for lacrosse? And she just looked at me and she said, "Why are you so worried about the future right now? You need to be worrying about today and tomorrow, because those are the only things that you can control. How the outcome with the future works is based on how much work you're willing to put into it right now. And you shouldn't be worrying about what everybody else thinks. Everyone just wants you to be happy. So if you want to quit lacrosse right now and start something new, everyone is behind you. But what do you want to do in this moment?" And I just said, I just want to get back in shape. I don't even care about lacrosse at this point. If I can just run, at least I'll have that. So the next day I decided to hire a personal trainer. And by the time that summer was over, I had lost about 20 pounds. I was finally starting to feel comfortable and confident with my different legs. I spent the entire summer basically doing long distance running, short distance running, dabbling in footwork, and getting back in the weight room. Start of my junior year, I have a meeting with my coaches, beginning of preseason, and I just said, you know what, I think I'm ready for the next step, and I think I'm ready to play again. But if this is going to happen, I need to be pushed, I need to be screamed at, and I need to be treated like everybody else. Because if you treat me like somebody who has a disability, then we're both going to be wasting our time. And the first day of practice rolls around, and they threw me into a full field scrimmage. Keep in mind, I hadn't picked up a lacrosse stick and ran at the same time, so you all can imagine how my first practice went. I could not catch a pass if my life depended on it, and I probably fell about 30 or 40 different times. But at the end of practice, I had a big smile on my face, because I was back out there with my teammates. I had something to work towards. After continuing to practice for a couple weeks and continuing to fail and not get any better, I started going back to those old habits and those old ways of hiding in drills because I was very ashamed and I was getting I was having a lot of self-doubt and self-conscious. I was sick of putting myself and my teammates in a position to fail. So I thought, okay, maybe this isn't for me. If I can't even go 2 weeks without catching a pass, this isn't going to be my sport. And having a prosthetic leg now, it's very difficult to hide in drills. So my assistant coach picked up on what I was doing. And in front of practice, she stopped and walked to the middle of the field, started screaming at me, saying, Noelle, if you don't want to be here, go get your stuff and get off this field and quit. Because your teammates don't deserve the effort that you're putting forth right now, and you don't deserve the effort that you're putting forth right now. And while I'm getting screamed at, it was like something in my head clicked. And I said to myself, okay, she's right. If I want to return playing Division I lacrosse, I need to be putting in twice as much work as everybody else because I have one less leg. So from that moment on, before and after practice every single day, I would work with my assistant coach, just working on the things that I wasn't comfortable with, that I wasn't confident in. And I spent 3 to 4 months doing those same exact drills after my 6 a.m. lift, before practice, after practice. I was breathing and eating, thinking about lacrosse. Everything was lacrosse and how I could get better and what I could do to get back on that field. After 4 months went by, I was starting to feel very confident. I mean, it was to the point where you couldn't even tell that I had a prosthetic leg. I wasn't even worrying about my prosthetic leg when I was running, but there was still something missing. I wasn't getting any playing time in practice, and I started to get very frustrated because I was putting in everything. I mean, my blood, sweat, and tears. I was, sore every single day. I was bleeding for blisters. It was getting to the point where if something doesn't change, then I can't keep doing this. And after practice one day, I was doing a typical footwork drill with my assistant coach, and I just remember dropping my stick, and I started hysterically crying. Something about me after my accident is I always put up this wall. I never let people in on how I was feeling or if I was going through a difficult time or a tough day. I never wanted that pity. I never wanted people to look at me and feel sorry for me. I would always portray an image out on my social media that I was okay with my accident. I used my sense of humor as a coping mechanism. And while, yes, that is very healthy in dealing with such a tragedy, what I realized that was really unhealthy is I was bottling up all my emotions to the point where I had exploded. And I had tears running down my face, and I remember lifting up my head expecting my coach to comfort me, and instead she had a huge smile on her face. And she said, Noelle, this is what we've been waiting for. We have been waiting for you to let us in. You cannot go through something like this on your own. You need to rely on the ones that love you most in this world. And that was my first time at 20 years old that I realized how important mental health is. And if you ever are going through a difficult time, to share it with that one person. And my assistant coach was that one person. After crying for about 4 or 5 hours, I felt like I could breathe again. I felt like I had a weight lifted off my shoulders. And the next day of practice, I started getting playing time. But because I had an agreement with my coaches that I was being treated like everybody else, they were not going to tell me when they were going to play me. I needed to be warmed up and ready to go just like everyone else. And halfway through my junior year, we had a home game, and with 10 minutes left to go in the first half, I remember hearing the words from my head coach of her saying, okay, Noelle, go in. And instantly when I heard that, I doubted myself. And I said, you know what, maybe I'm not ready for this. And then I felt my teammates behind me, pushing me and telling me to get back on that field and that they believed in me and that this is what we've all been working towards. So running on the field, I thought, 1, don't trip, that'd be very embarrassing. 2, don't worry about the crowd, don't worry about the cameras. Your teammates and your coaches are putting you in this game right now because they feel comfortable and confident that you're going to help them win this game. So just treat it like practice and just have some fun. After a couple minutes went by, I had a couple shots on goal and they were both misses. And then I received a perfect pass from behind the net from one of my teammates. And I just remember catching the ball, ripping a shot, and seeing the ball go in the back of the net. I instantly dropped my stick and I started sprinting to my bench because I wanted to celebrate with the people that made that moment possible, with the people that were so selfless to push their dreams aside to help my dream come true. They were the ones believing in me when I did not believe in myself. If it was up to me, I would have quit day 1 or day 2. And it wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for them. I look back on that video, and the best part about it isn't me scoring. It's the reaction that I got from them because they were so amazing and never treating me like somebody with a disability and never letting me use my amputation as an excuse or a reason to give up. And trust me, I tried using it as excuses all the time, saying, maybe I can't do this run test. I'm not as fast as you guys. And they would just tell me to shut up and get on the line. My senior year rolled around and it was like my accident never even happened. I created a great role for myself on the team. I was at every single practice, every single game. I knew that I was never going to be that player I was before my accident, being the quarterback of the offense, always having the ball in my stick. That wasn't what was important to me. What was important was being a part of something. And going through everything that I went through up until that point, and looking back, I had so many people reaching out to me. I had 2 different foundations donate specialized prosthetics to me, and seeing the work that those foundations do for other amputees, that really inspired me, and it made me realize what I wanted to do with my life. And with the help of my wonderful family, I was able to start the Born to Run Foundation. And it's a nonprofit organization that donates specialized prosthetics to amputees that just want to live a fun and fulfilling life and don't have to worry about paying for a very expensive specialized prosthetic. And I just want to use it as a community. And I want to use the foundation as a message that if I can go through everything that I went through, in return being the first above knee amputee to ever play collegiate lacrosse, then they can 100% do whatever they want to with their lives. And you wouldn't believe the type of prosthetic legs they have nowadays. If you want to go swimming, if you want to go for a run, you want to go wake surfing, snowboarding, mountain biking, they have prosthetic legs for it nowadays. So for my foundation to be able to help that one person, it's always a full circle moment for me because I was that one person that just needed one prosthetic leg to do the thing that I love most in this life, and that's just be an athlete. Graduating college in 2019, I really didn't want to hang up my athletic career just yet. In my eyes, I'd only been running for about 2 years, and that's when someone from the US Paralympic track and field world reached out to me, and they've asked if I've ever thought about competing. Fun fact about me, I hated running. I hated everything to do with it, but I thought this would be an incredible opportunity to represent my country and to see if this is something I could make a career out of. So I signed myself up for the first track meet that I saw. It was in Arizona. I had about 1 month to train for it. I was showing up to the track by myself with no track coach. I bought a pair of starting blocks on Amazon. I had no idea what I was doing. And by the time the race rolled around, I was about 10% confident in my athletic abilities. But I got on that plane with my mother and we flew. And I just thought to myself, nobody's going to be there. It's not that big of a deal. When I landed, I realized that the entire US Paralympic national track and field team was going to be there, all of the head coaches, and that I was competing against the reigning national champion. And I looked over at my mother, said, let's go home. I don't want to do this. I'm going to make a fool out of myself. I'm just going to trip. I'm not even going to be able to finish this race. My mom looked at me and she said, we are not going home. We did not travel this way all for nothing. I don't care if you crawl across that finish line. You will cross that finish line. The night before the race, I'm joking around with my mother, and she's a very realistic person. I said, hey Mom, wouldn't it be funny if I won? She completely shot that down. She said, Noelle, there's no way you're winning this race. This girl has been doing this for 8 years. Just use her to help motivate you to go faster. And I said, yeah, you're right. Waking up the next day, I don't think I've ever been so nervous about something in my entire life. Because growing up, I had always been a part of team sports. I had never been a part of an individual sport before. So having all the pressure be on me was a very uncomfortable feeling, and I wasn't sure if I was ready for it. I showed up to the track, and I know all of you see female track runners and what they usually wear. They wear like a sports bra and like a bathing suit bottom. They wear nothing. I am wearing a baggy t-shirts and baggy shorts that say lacrosse all over it. So already I look like I do not belong. And everyone started to write me off. Everyone started calling me the lacrosse girl. Nobody took me seriously. And I remember lining up in the blocks, completely pale, shaking at this point, and the reigning national champion is to my right, and she could see how nervous I am. And she just says, "Don't worry, girl, you got this." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. You're gonna be in front of me. You're gonna be motivating me to go faster." When the gun went off, about halfway through the race, I heard this annoying screeching sound. And it was actually my mother, because I was winning. And when I crossed the finish line, not only did I win and beat the reigning national champion, but I also hit the qualifying times to be a part of the U.S. Paralympic national track and field team. And why do you think that moment was possible? Because the 2 years prior to that, I was competing alongside people with two legs. Every single time we did a run test, if I came in last place, I had to do 10 burpees. And then if they came in last place, they had to do 10 burpees because the girl with one leg just beat them. So all of those moments were preparing me for this one race. I'm also a very competitive person. If you tell me that I cannot do something, I will die trying to prove you wrong. And so when I got home, I realized, all right, I'm a part of a team now. I need a coach. I need a training program. I cannot do this on my own. So I found a track coach in Boston. I show up for my first day of practice, and I'm cocky at this point. I'm very confident. I'm thinking this is going to be very easy. I just showed up for my first track race, and I won. I do my first stride, and my coach looks at me and he says, "Dear God, how do you call yourself an athlete?" And I'm just like, "Well, what do you mean?" He's like, "What are you doing with your arms?" I'm like, "Well, I ran with a lacrosse stick for 20 years of my life, so I don't really understand what running form is." And he said, "Okay, well, we're not calling you an athlete anytime soon, and we have a lot of work to do." I was like, "All right, great." 3 months later, I qualified for my first World Championships team. It was in Dubai, and I was just excited that I got a Team USA uniform, I was representing my country, and I was competing alongside the best in the world. I had no expectations. Honestly, I was just going there to kind of see if I belonged once again. And I was by myself, my family could not go. My coach actually couldn't even go. So I was there alone, meeting a whole new group of people, which I loved. And they took me in, they took me under their wing. Like, it was super easy. And when I crossed the finish line, I placed 4th in the world and I broke the American record. And I called my coach who was watching live. And I said, "Coach, I just broke the American record." He was like, "Get home immediately, we have work to do. You looked awful." I was like, wow, okay. Can't catch a break with this guy. So I get home and I have 1 year to train for the Tokyo Paralympic Games. And then COVID happens. Tokyo Paralympic Games are postponed an entire year. I actually viewed it as a blessing in disguise because I had a whole extra year to train and get better at something that I wasn't comfortable with. And I decided to use that time to benefit me and to not sit at home and sulk every single day, to do what I can to better my odds of making and qualifying for the Paralympic team. Paralympic trials rolls around and I qualified for my first Paralympic Games. 2 weeks before leaving, I catch COVID, and they kind of had an unwritten rule and told us this very early on, saying if you get COVID 90 days before going to Tokyo, you cannot go. But they only said it once and they never said it again. And so I was hysterically crying in my doctor's office when they were coming out with the positive test, and she just looks at me and she's like, "Why are you so upset right now?" And I was like, "Well, I'm leaving, supposed to be leaving for Tokyo for the Paralympic Games. All of my training was for nothing, I can't go." And she's like, "Okay, well, when are you leaving?" And I said, I think I had like 14 days until I was leaving. And she just said, "Oh, well, it'll be out of your system by then. If you were feeling symptoms 5 days ago, like, it should be out of your system by next week and you'll be good to go." I said, "Okay, can you put that in writing and can you sign off like a doctor's note so I'm good to go when I travel to Tokyo?" And I decided that if I take all the 14 COVID tests that I have to take before even getting on the plane for Tokyo, if I take all those and those come back negative, I don't need to tell anybody. If I have my doctor's notes, I'll be good to go. I was waking up at 4:30 a.m. every single morning, going to the track because I knew no one would be there. Probably wasn't the smartest thing with me having COVID. Should have been resting, but if I did nothing for 2 weeks, I would have lost everything. And I did not work this hard for me to just lose everything and show up and come in last place. So I did what I needed to do. I took my COVID tests. All of them came back negative. I fly to Tokyo, and when we landed, we all had to take COVID tests. The girl that traveled with me to Tokyo, she tested positive for COVID, and because I traveled with her, I immediately had to go into quarantine. I missed opening ceremonies. I could only go outside for about an hour and a half every single day because I did not tell them that I already had it. I was deathly afraid of what they would say if I said, I already had this, I have a doctor's note. I had no idea. And I'm at the point where I am mentally checked out. I'm done. I want to go home. I had 2 weeks until my competition was going to happen, but I just felt as though everything was over and that I just might as well go home and quit because God is trying to tell me something. It's like I keep hitting all these roadblocks and I keep pushing through every single one of them, but every single time I'm coming out and I'm just mentally checked out each and every single time. After a couple days of feeling like this, I thought to myself, you are being a baby right now. You did not come to Tokyo to go to the Paralympic opening ceremonies, to be in the village. Yes, it's all part of the experience, but that's not what the biggest goal is. The biggest goal is for you to compete and do the best that you can. And I still had that opportunity. That opportunity wasn't taken from me. So I decided to suck it up. And I was in quarantine for a week, was able to get out of quarantine finally, go into the Paralympic village, sleeping on those beds one night. I wanted to go back into quarantine because those cardboard beds were terrible. And the day of my race comes, I'm feeling great. I'm feeling ready. I crossed the finish line and I placed 6th in the world and I broke my own American record. I knew it was going to be very difficult for me to medal in my first Paralympic Games because that was actually my 6th or 7th race ever competing. And I didn't have a ton of competition experience under my belt. So I knew that going out there, I just needed to do the best that I could, hit a PR. And you best believe by the time Paris 2024 rolls around, I will be an entirely new person. And I remember when I crossed the finish line, I finally called my coach who was watching it live. And I said, all right, coach, what am I doing wrong now? And he said, you can actually call yourself a track athlete now. I was like, okay, you just feel sorry for me at this point. It's fine. Getting home, I needed a break. I needed to try something new. When you do something for so long, it's just healthy to start a new hobby to kind of get your mind off of it for a little bit. So I decided to pick up an entirely new sport that I had never competed in or try. I decided to start snowboarding. And I reached out to one of my mentors, Amy Purdy. She's a double below knee amputee, Paralympic medalist. She was on Dancing with the Stars. I reached out to her and said, hey, I'm thinking about snowboarding. Do you have any tips? She responded saying, come out and train with me and my husband in Colorado. We will coach you. And I said, all right, sounds great. I packed up my car and I drove out to Colorado. I was basically learning and training snowboarding for about a month and then decided to fly to Europe to start competing because what's the best way to start something? Just dive right in, I guess. Honestly, I was using it as an excuse to travel and I just wanted an incredible experience. I wanted to just start something new. And I had the whole winter off, so I said, why not? I qualified for my first World Championships in my first snowboarding season, and I placed 4th in the world out of 4 people. Do I view me coming in last as a failure? Absolutely not. I view it as an opportunity to get better, to grow, and I thought I was just starting a new hobby, something that I could do for fun, and I actually fell in love with an entirely different sport. So on top of training for Paris 2024 for the Summer Paralympic Games, I am also training for Milan 2026 for the Winter Paralympic Games. I knew that it was going to be very challenging, but having the open arms from everybody, all of the Team USA players and competitors, they were bringing me in with open arms, teaching me the ropes. So that was just an incredible experience. And when I was in Tokyo, I received a DM on Instagram because, that's how the world communicates nowadays. And it was from the head casting director of Survivor. And he just asked a simple question saying, hey, have you ever thought about applying? Fun fact, my mother's the biggest diehard Survivor fan there is, never miss a season, never miss an episode, has been making me watch since I was 10 years old, and I actually fell in love with the show. But I never once applied because I had never seen anybody who was an above knee amputee do that show before. There has been 2 amputees who were below knee amputees, but it's an entirely different thing. For me to be able to do this show, I need multiple prosthetic legs, I need my running blade, and I need my walking leg. because I cannot run with my walking leg. And for me to do some of these challenges, I need to have a running blade. So I responded to the casting director saying, 1, is this a scam? 2, do you realize I'm an amputee? So he calls me, and it's him, and he just says, that's what we love about you. We love your story. Like, we love how you're different. He said, just because I'm reaching out doesn't mean you're automatically on the show. You still need to do an application video. Like, you need to go through the whole process. So I was like, okay, whatever. I'll go through the whole process, and they're going to actually come back and tell me that they're not going to go with me because it's going to be too much to even put me on the show. So I go through the whole casting process, and it's actually all through Zoom. And I'm actually going through all the interviews when I'm out in Europe competing for snowboarding. And I remember when I was in the Netherlands, it was about 11 p.m. my time, and I got a FaceTime call. And what they tell you is anytime you get a call, always answer it. And so I answered it, and it was just Jeff Probst, just him, nobody else. And basically, like, what you have to do in these interviews, you have 5 to 10 minutes for them to fall in love with you, and then you make it to the next round. So he's like, hey, I'm like, this is weird, hi. He's like, why is it dark where you are? Like, where are you? I'm like, oh, I'm in the Netherlands right now. I'm competing in a snowboarding competition. He's like, I thought you were a track and field athlete. I'm like, okay, this is my moment to bring him in. This is it. I said, well, Jeff, I love putting myself in uncomfortable positions and to proving to the world that amputees are capable of doing anything. Check, made it to the next round. Still was thinking to myself, there's no way that I'm actually going to get casted for this show. And it was about a year ago in March, a little more than a year, but I remember being snowed in my house, and I remember getting a text from the head casting director saying, hey, can you give me a quick call? I'm like, okay, this is it. This is the moment that they're deciding to go with someone different, because I feel like if I'm getting casted for Survivor, it would be a bigger ordeal. It'd be like a video of Jeff Probst saying, you're on Survivor. Like, I feel like this is like too nonchalant. So I call him, and he just says, hey, what are you up to? And I'm like, oh, nothing. I'm snowed in my house. There's a blizzard outside. He's like, well, do you want to leave the blizzard and go to Fiji because you're on season 43 of Survivor? I was like, I have to call you back. I hung up the phone, and I looked over at my fiance, and I was like, I'm going to call him back and tell him I'm not doing it. I'm going to say no. I don't know if I want to do this. I never really realized that this would be a possibility. And what I was thinking of, you know, when you're on Survivor, you're starving to death. You get no food. And when I lose weight, my leg loses weight. So how am I going to be able to maintain the suction and keeping my leg on? I don't want my leg to fall off every single episode on national television. That would be embarrassing. Prosthetic legs do not mesh well with salt water and sand. They actually tell you to stay away from it. I was going to be living in these conditions. Survivor is a social game. Everyone is going to take one look at me, and they're going to want to vote me off because of my story, because they think people will give me the sympathy vote at the end. People will question my athletic abilities and challenges. Why would I go through this experience just to be the first person voted off? And, you know, I'm coming up with all these excuses, and I call the casting director back, and I'm telling him all these excuses, and he's like, okay, 1, don't worry about your prosthetic stuff. We have you covered. Whatever you need, we will find a way to make it work. 2, stop complaining, because this is literally what everybody says. They ask how they're going to do it. And if you can mentally get through it, and you're mentally tough, anybody can do this game. And I was like, you know what? If I don't do this, who is going to? You know, who's going to show that positive representation for the amputee community, for the disabled community? That was the only reason why I said yes to the show. Because I thought to myself, you know, if I could just help that one person watching who's going through a difficult time, who's an amputee, who's disabled, and they can see me starving to death on this island, doing these physically grueling challenges without complaining, with a smile on my face, maybe that would encourage them to get out there and to try to live out their dreams. Does that mean I was excited? Absolutely not. I was scared to death. Whole month and a half before leaving, I could not sleep at night. I was actually starving myself. That's the route that I chose to take. I mean, there's different routes people choose to take. You can either overeat, gain a bunch of muscle, or you can either starve yourself to get your body used to not cooperating with the right nutrients. I was also full-time training, so this was kind of perfect. My track coach did not know that I was doing this, though, to my body, and I was eating like crap. I don't know if anybody's seen every single Survivor. There's a Survivor player, Malcolm, and he's been on it like 3 or 4 times, and this is what he did. He ate junk food once a day, at like 2 p.m., 3 p.m. to kind of basically like McDonald's, like anything terrible you can think of, that's what he ate. Because if your body can get off of thinking, oh, I need fruits and vegetables, like it will prepare you when you're out there for whenever you do get rice, your body will be like, oh my God, this is incredible. So I leave and I film the show. And I won't give anything away just in case anybody, I know a lot of you have watched, but I will say this. I was not the weakest person out there. Every single physical challenge, I found a way to overcome it. I did whatever it took, and my castmates never viewed me as somebody with a disability, and they knew that I was there to play the game. The edit that I got was incredible because it wasn't like a poor Noelle, look at her, she's disabled. It was more as they would bring up me having a prosthetic leg, but not in a negative light. They would do it as, you know, this girl is doing this show and she's not even, I never wanted to talk about my amputation. I never wanted to talk about my accident. I honestly lied to everybody. I never told anybody that I was a Paralympian. I said I was a lacrosse coach. That was my mother's game plan. She told me to do this because I was trying to be less of a threat, and I just wanted to be like, okay, everyone wants me around. And after watching everything when it aired and getting the feedback that I got from the whole Survivor community was incredible. I mean, I had hundreds of people reaching out to me and so many people commenting on my stuff saying, you helped me in a very difficult time in my life. I had parents reaching out saying, you know, my daughter, my son is an amputee, and every single Wednesday night they point to the TV saying, Mom, she looks like me, maybe I can do this show one day. That's what the whole experience was about for me. It wasn't about, you know, trying to win the $1 million. Yeah, that would have been very nice, but I knew it was going to be very difficult. And I always say, I didn't get the $1 million, but I got the $1 million experience. When you hear my story, there is a common theme. I doubt myself before every single new adventure that I try. How do I get over that self-doubt? I surround myself with the village of people that I know that can get me to where I need to be. And every single time I'm going through a tough day or a difficult moment, I always think to myself, you know, what is my why? Why am I doing this? And I always use that answer to motivate me to just get through a workout or get through a tough day. When I look back on my accident, I view it as such a positive. I actually view it as something that I'm extremely grateful for because not only did it change the type of athlete and teammate I was, it has made me into the person who I am today, and the work that I do for my foundation, that my family does for my foundation is something that I will be so grateful. I'm always so grateful for, and will be my biggest accomplishment yet because we're changing so many people's lives. I was that one person just sitting there waiting for a prosthetic leg so that I could do what I wanted to with my life. So getting to meet these incredible people and gift them with a prosthetic leg and see them live out their dreams is such an incredible moment. Thank you so much. All right, that's great. All right, we can get through. Now we can get to the fun stuff. That was very relaxing and calm. I felt like I didn't have to yell at all. Yeah, that'd be great, actually. Thank you. I do want to open it up to some questions. I know a lot will be about Survivor. I'm used to that, but if anyone else has any other questions, fire away. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't want to open up the tier.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how did you get through, like, you lost your leg?
Yeah, honestly, the one answer is my mother. You know, I talk about her a lot in my story, and she is just, I mean, I have an incredible family. My dad is incredible, my brothers, but she has always been like my best friend. And very early on, I knew, I mean, the second my parents knew that I was going to live, it was like, they didn't even care that I lost a leg. They just cared that I was still here. And so when they had that mindset, to me, I felt as though I owed them and that I couldn't feel sorry for myself. And my mom was always the one telling me, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be able to play lacrosse again. You're gonna be the first person to ever play lacrosse. She was telling me before I even got the DM, she's like, you're gonna go on Survivor. I know you're. I'm like, Mom, you're literally insane. And every single time, you know, I go out for a competition or anything, you know, I call her and she just says, just do your best. I mean, I think my parents have always been very supportive of me. I don't know why I always felt the need that like I put myself on a pedestal and like I can never disappoint them, but I feel like that's always helped me. And I think it's just everyone, around me. I mean, nobody ever treated me differently, honestly. Like, I never got people telling me that I wouldn't be able to play lacrosse, which is insane because it's usually the opposite. People say, your life is over. You can't do the things that you were doing with 2 legs, with 1 leg. And so when I told my prosthetist I want to play lacrosse again, he was like, okay, what do we need to do? I will help you get there. And it was like every time I would tell somebody I was going to do something, nobody would doubt me. And unless it was like a stranger, and then of course, you know. So that was, I think that's 100%. And like, obviously in the beginning, I struggled with like, you know, my image and like going out, like outside and being self-conscious of having a prosthetic leg. I would wear pants a lot. And it was actually my friends that got me out of that. One of my best friends literally said, Noelle, you're better looking without a leg. Just because I don't know what it is, but like you're glowing, I don't know. And that always stuck with me. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I should embrace it. And you know, at first it was very difficult to walk and I see everyone staring at me, but then I realized, you know, like I would probably be staring. You know, you see a beautiful girl walking down the street with 1 leg, who wouldn't stare? But it's, you know, once you can accept it, I wake up every single day and I'm like, okay, I don't even think about having a prosthetic leg. It's crazy. And it took me a couple years, obviously, but like once I graduated, and I didn't meet my fiance until after I graduated. So having to meet somebody and have somebody fall in love with me with already being like this, that was incredibly helpful as well. But it's other people. I mean, I will never credit anything that I've ever done just to myself. Like, it's crazy. When I went on Survivor, I was thinking to myself, okay, this is the one true test that I will be completely alone. I will have no access to my family members, to my mother. I can't call my mom. So I have to do everything on my own. And then it was crazy because I found that community from my castmates that I was playing the game with. And like, it's crazy because it's such a cutthroat game, everyone lies, but like I created amazing bonds out there. And so we all supported one another. There was a challenge that I was in dead last for probably 30 minutes. I was on a balance beam, I was struggling. I was ready to give up, I was ready to quit. I was crying and everyone is already on the last stage of, you know, the obstacle course. And then I heard every single person cheering for me in like a game where we're all competing for $1 million. So that fired me up and that's why I kept going. And then I ended up winning that challenge. I came from behind and I was able to win like the best reward of the season. And then, but I still would never credit that for me. I would credit that to them taking time when they're trying to land and eat food for themselves. They felt the need that they could cheer me on. So community. I mean, I can't stress it enough because I would not be here if it wasn't for all of them. That's a great question. Anybody else? Survivor questions? No.
Well, it's not a survivor.
No, that's fine. I was looking at. Yeah.
I love your story and thank you for sharing it.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't know anyone in here, but I'm local. And
Yeah.
I have kind of been tossed into the amputee community because my sister suffered some extreme as a result of septic shock.
Yeah.
She has lost, she's a quadruple amputee.
Oh my goodness,
below
yeah.
knees on both and her fingers are all gone.
Yeah.
So this is all
Wow.
pretty new and fresh for us.
Yeah.
Completely agree that it's the community, it's the people that can help build people up. But I'm curious kind of about a little bit more the logistics
Yeah.
of your legs. I mean, she's in the process of getting different legs.
Sockets,
She's
getting
a lot
fitted.
going on, but,
Yeah.
different types of things and, you know, ones that are cast to you. I know you've got a blade. Like, what are the different types of legs that you've explored? How is that process, like trying some on and do they work and you have to go back and refit? And what is
Yeah.
that like over time?
Yeah, it's you know, it's a very draining, annoying process because, you know, you want your leg and you want to be able to walk, but then you need it to be comfortable. You need it to be able to function the way you want it to function. When I got fitted for my first prosthetic leg, I put it on and it was very uncomfortable because, you know, I'm putting all my weight on my leg and I needed to, this one has a microchip. So like basically I needed to figure out how this knee even bends and I had to put the correct amount of weight on it. So that was just, I was walking with a cane for like 3 or 4 weeks just because I needed to get comfortable. But it can be very frustrating when you're getting like fitted for a socket, because if you have, you know, like once you get casted and then they do a check socket and then they put the whole thing on and then you're like, well, this is really uncomfortable, it's pinching. My advice is to never keep anything inside. Always be very vocal with your prosthetist, because when you walk out of there, that's your leg, and it's never gonna just go away. Like if there's something bothering you, you need to fix it. When I was switching between, you know, my everyday walking leg and my running blade, that was really challenging because they were two completely different legs. This one is very stable. It's like if I lift the knee up, like it'll lower it down slowly so I could catch myself if I stumble. My running blade is the complete opposite. My knee is about that big, and I can't put my prosthetic leg back like this and put all the weight on it on my running blade because the knee will give in and then I'll fall. So that was really very annoying to deal with and to learn. But every single new leg that I try, I'm just very stubborn, and I tell myself, you know, if they say this is the best thing that I could be getting, I need to believe it, and I just need to learn how to do it. But it's very challenging for her because, you know, she's learning to completely walk again and she doesn't have a sound side. So it's tricky, but my advice is just to always believe in your prosthetist. And if you can't believe in your prosthetist, you know you need a new one. I was very fortunate enough to work with a prosthetic person in Manchester. He's an above knee amputee himself, so he kind of knew everything I was going through. So everything he was telling me, I was like, okay, I believe you. Obviously, if you're sitting there telling me this. I've gone from, you know, I have a waterproof leg because this one isn't waterproof. I have to charge this one every night. So when I was figuring out how to even walk with that one, that was really challenging. And it's just every time I get a new leg, it's like, okay, I need a couple weeks. You're not going to feel comfortable the second you get it. You have to work towards it. You have to, do you know if she's in physical therapy? Yeah, so that, I mean, I tell every single person, go through physical therapy, because the only reason why I can walk well is because of physical therapy. It's not because I've been an athlete my whole life and I know how to walk. It's because they did everything I needed to do to get my core right, to get the muscles right, to get me to stand straight up and feel comfortable standing straight up.
And did you have physical therapists that were specialized with people that had amputations?
No, I mean, no, yeah.
More experience in that.
Yeah, I think my person like maybe worked with like, I don't know, 1 or 2 people, like nothing crazy. I just went to my local physical therapist because it was just easy for me. And she was incredible because, because she did what she needed to do. And when I started working with my strength coach, she had never worked with an amputee in her life. So we were both learning as we went. And it's crazy because like, I'll be like, yeah, I can't do this workout. But now, like, she will make me do it and I can do it. She's like, so you were just lying this whole time. I'm like, no, I just really didn't believe. But it's tough to put your trust in other people. It takes a while. But like, once I figured it out that like I really couldn't do it on my own, like that's kind of when I started progressing and feeling more comfortable. And it's crazy, my physical therapist, she swears to this day that I told her I was going to be on Survivor. I don't remember this, but she was great because she was trying to get me to do lacrosse drills the second I got my running blade. And I was like, I don't even want to pick up a lacrosse stick. I was like, no. She's like, no, we're gonna do footwork drills. I'm like, no, I don't want to do footwork drills. So it's in the beginning, it's very tough because you're learning how to do everything on your own. It's very dark, but I mean, my parents and my family and my friends, they didn't like smother me, which was good. I mean, but I knew that they were always there. So like the best support that you can give is just to kind of have them know that you're there if you need them. But yeah, I mean, I would love to talk to her if she has any questions. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would love, let's say everything I've learned is from other amputees that took the time to kind of help me in my process. So I always feel it's best to give it back. And I always talk to newly amputees. It's very like, when I get to see them and meet them, it's just like, I can look at them and be like, literally this was me and I know that you're going to be fine. It's just like, you just need to get past this one little lump in the road, and then you're going to be good to go, I promise.
The mindset.
Yeah. Yes?
What was your Ponderosa?
What was my Ponderosa? So Ponderosa, if you don't know, yes, Ponderosa is basically where you go when you get voted off. It's basically just a resort that they rent out. Mine was on the mainland in Fiji, so it was literally an hour boat ride away from all the different islands that they film, because Survivor actually uses like 10 to 12 different islands. Every single tribe when they start off is on a different island. Tribal Council's on a different island. There's 4 or 5 locations for challenges that are all different, so it's a lot. But yeah, so Ponderosa, it was just on the mainland. It was great. It was, once I got voted off, I was like, food, I can eat some food. And I was still in the game because I made the jury, so I could still look forward to going to Tribal Council, but that was what my mom said. She said, don't get voted off first and just make the jury. So, and she's like, I don't even care if you win. Like, I want to see you when you're all dirty and then you come back on the jury and you're all clean, you have makeup, you look pretty. So my mom got her wish.
So a lot of the Survivor cast members do it again. So
Yeah.
do you think you would ever do it again?
I would in a heartbeat. Yeah. It's going to be very interesting to see who they bring back. I was a pain in the butt with production, but not in like a bad way, but sometimes they would just, when you're walking to Tribal and you see them walking on the sand with their torches, they tried to make us do that over like 4 different times. And I was like, it's very difficult for me to walk in sand. I'm hungry and I'm tired. I'm only doing this once. I was like, you get your shot. You have 50 cameras, you have 4 drones, make it work. I was like, I'm sitting out, so I don't care if I'll go home. I'm not walking this entire beach. So it's quite the experience.
How much do like the producers and camera people intervene during Survivor? Like, do they
Never.
film you like while you're sleeping and stuff?
Yeah, 24/7. So I will say, like, once it gets dark, all the camera crew goes home, and then there's one guy, basically like this fine gentleman over here, and this is what he does. He has a stand, has the camera. He's not like he's on his laptop all night, but he's the night producer. So if anything happens, he's there. He has the camera. Nothing typically happens because we're sleeping, but other than that, the cameras are in your face. Cameramen are not allowed to talk to you, only producers. They will never cut in when you're having a conversation unless you're talking about production. They don't like that. They don't like talking about the casting process. They don't like when you talk about we would call, like, if one of the camera guys were Gary, we can't talk about Gary because it's not realistic. Like, they want it to be, you're on an island. So they won't film you when you're going to the bathroom. At least that's kind of like a privacy, but when you go to the bathroom, you either dig a hole, you go in the ocean. So, yeah, you don't really care. Once, after 3 days, you're like, you can follow me if you want. I'm getting naked, so. Yes.
Did you have problems with the prosthetics? Like,
Oh, yeah. So, they were great because they gave me, like, my own prosthetic box. Behind camp, there's a medical box. So if you have, like, prescription medication that you got cleared with the doctor, feminine products, it's all in there. And so I had my own little box, and it was like my prosthetic things. I had like pads to kind of put in my prosthetic when I was losing weight. They gave me, everything they gave me, I brought for myself from my prosthetist. I worked it out with him, and then they just made sure everything was good, and then they gave it to me. But I had a terrible rash on my leg because I'm not used to wearing my leg, 12, 13, 14 hours a day. Every time I go home from like a workout and I'm watching TV, it's like you guys would take off your socks and shoes. I take off my leg. Like, I'm just getting comfortable. I don't sleep with it. So it was staying on all day with the heat and like everything. So I got a really bad rash. And so that was like, okay. And then everything would get very rusty on my prosthetic leg, and to the point where a couple of my screws would strip. One of them broke in half, actually, and they actually had to go to the mainland to get a screw for me so I could put my leg on. But that was like kind of towards the end. But yeah, after day like 12, I think it's when it really just started getting very annoying, and then it's very hot too. So when it's very hot, my leg sweats and my leg comes off. So if you watch the season, you'll see my leg come off a few different times, and Jeff likes to say that I took it off. No, Jeff, my leg fell off. Like, there's nothing I can do. So it was cool because everyone was very helpful, and I showed my sense of humor very early on to kind of get people to feel comfortable around me. It's like I didn't want people to kind of walk on eggshells around. Like, if you have a question, ask me a question. I don't care. But I had to be really careful because I was also lying about a lot. So couldn't tell them about my occupation, couldn't tell them about a lot of things. So that was wonderful. And then I got voted off and I told everyone, so. But they were like, oh, it makes sense because you killed every challenge. And I'm like, yeah, well, didn't really kill every challenge. I never found an idol. I did get an advantage though. The steal a vote one. I didn't even find it. It was given to me, but I was not an idol-looking person. I never had energy. I mean, you're literally not eating. So the only thing I wanted to do was sit and just stare into space. So when people got up to look for idols, I would look for like 5 minutes and I'd be like, all right, I'm going to lay down. This is just stupid. There's ants, there's bugs everywhere. There's like 1,000 ants on every single tree. So like when you're searching around, you have ants all over you. So I was just... So Fiji doesn't even have like land snakes. They only have like water snakes. They only have sea snakes. So all the snakes that you see when you're watching the show are fake. They're not fake, but they bring them in and then they film, which was cool.
Now Fiji has snakes.
Yeah, now Fiji has snakes. Yeah, Fiji actually didn't have any crazy animals. I mean, on the first beach that I was on, there was this really annoying bird that sounded like babies screaming. And where we set up camp is kind of where they use, like it was like a runway. It's where they would like take off. So we would be sleeping and literally birds would run across us to like jump in the air. But then during the day, they were so weird because they would just lay on the paths. And they just told us not to do any, like don't eat them because I think they were endangered. Yeah, I mean, sleeping accommodations, we had to build a camp. I had to sleep on bamboo or you could sleep on the beach. We tried sleeping on the beach and we got attacked by crabs. So I would much rather have slept in the bamboo. And I actually got very accustomed to sleeping in the bamboo. And when I had a bed, I literally could not sleep. Literally, it took me like a week and a half to kind of get comfortable with being in a bed. And then when I came home, I would wake up and I would think that I was on the island so you're not allowed to cuddle on Survivor anymore. One creep ruined it and was being very weird. So you actually have to sleep with like barriers in between you sometimes. They're really strict about it in the beginning. They just don't want people cuddling. Even if it's like my best friend, like who's a girl, like they won't allow it. But like by the end, we would all just kind of like huddle, but nobody would touch anybody. And so like I always thought I was sleeping next to people, so I would wake up in the middle of the night and like it's wild coming back to like civilization. It's just like everything is. I didn't trust anybody. And my mom would tell me something. I'm like, you're lying. You're lying to me because I got blindsided by my number one. So but I knew it was part of the game. I also told myself it's a game. When you're done with the game, still, if you form great relationships with people, keep those relationships. Who cares? At the end of the day, yeah, but like you get to do an incredible experience. Like I wasn't gonna take that experience and be bitter. And also my mom told me never to be bitter because nobody likes a bitter person when they're watching the TV, so. Yeah, but my facial expressions like to say a different thing. So if you actually watch it and you haven't, I'm a very competitive person and it shows through my facial expressions. But yeah.
Was it hard getting back to training when you came back?
Yeah, so that was another funny thing. My coach, him agreeing to let me do this show, he said, well, you're still going to nationals. I get home, I have 1 week to train for nationals. And I lost like 20 pounds. I lost all my muscle. I'm just kind of still getting back in the swing of things. And I was only home for a week and I had to fly to Florida. My legs weren't even fitting me correctly. And I got my butt kicked at nationals. But I was able to kind of get back into it. But that was a lot. It was just, I was always extremely tired. And your body just like goes through, and like I didn't want to overeat, especially getting out of the game. It's like you tell yourself like don't overeat, and then you're literally just sitting in front of food when you get voted off, so that's all you do. So you literally gain the weight back within like 2 or 3 days. But that doesn't mean I was gaining all my muscle back. So that was just really difficult. But I would absolutely do it again. I would definitely put my body through that again. Because I mean you get voted off and you want another chance. How did I crash? I just lost control. I wasn't properly taught. And yeah, I had someone on the back with me. So the weight distribution was a little off. Luckily, the girl that was on the back with me, she didn't have any life-threatening injuries, thank God. because I was the one driving. All the injuries that she received was from hitting the pavement. She never touched the dump truck. So yeah, so luckily it was all me, but.
What was like the hottest moment throughout your whole career?
The hardest moment throughout my whole career is like, I don't want to say Survivor, but it was kind of Survivor. I would definitely say kind of, right before Tokyo, like going through everything with COVID. It's just because there was so much uncertainty. I was laying in bed, like having COVID while like a lot of people flew out a lot earlier to do like preseason camp. Luckily, I wasn't even going to preseason camp because I didn't need to because my competition was like one of the last days. But I was watching everyone on social media and I was like, what if I can't go to this? Like, I'm going to be devastated. So that was mentally very difficult, and just not knowing if I was actually going to be able to do it. And it was funny because I actually came clean saying I had COVID while I was there, because every single day when I was in quarantine, I had to take 3 COVID tests, once in the morning, one in the afternoon, one at night. And they would give us PCR tests. And I was like, stop giving me PCR tests. I was like, give me a rapid test, because obviously if I have a PCR test, it might still show up. So one of my COVID tests actually came back positive. And I remember getting the phone call. She didn't even finish the sentence. I was like, I already had it. I was like, I already have written doctor's notes. I'm cleared. She's like, why didn't you tell us? I was like, you made it seem like we weren't able to go and I didn't trust you. I was like, it has nothing to do with you. I just got advice from my doctors, from my agent, my coach, like if I can get cleared, then why not? And she's like, all right, well, you can get out of quarantine then. I was like, okay, so I could have told you this like the first time. So that was like another thing. But yeah, that was definitely like just like the mental exhaustion of it, and just not having my family there. Nobody was allowed to come with us to Tokyo. It was just the athletes, and we had empty stands. So that was just a really weird experience, because like you're at you're at the biggest stage of your entire career, and it's just crickets, and when you're lining up in the blocks. But then like you think that it's going to be crickets, and then you still have all this adrenaline. So, but yeah. Did I ever find it? No. So they took care of it. They took care of it for me. I wish that I could say, I said this earlier to all the kids, but if it was up to me, I would love to have like an urn with my ashes, because that's what they do. They incinerate. I would love to have like a little necklace. I thought that would be pretty cool, but no, they got rid of it. Didn't want. They just thought that like I wouldn't want it, but that's totally understandable.
So in every single Survivor episode, it's like they always have a plan, and then something else comes up and they're not sure, and then they go with their original plan. Do the producers just tell you to come up with a backup plan to make the episodes?
No, I promise you, producers have nothing to do with it. They have nothing to do with it. The only power they have is editing it. So what you're seeing is the power of editing. So like, another thing what people don't realize is we literally have like 8 hours before we leave for tribal council. So we are talking a lot of games. So like you can come up with different game plans, and they're videotaping it. So like even if you come up with like a plan that was way out in left field, they will want that because they'll air that to kind of throw the audience off. So when you're out there, you never feel like it's staged. Like I said, I said this earlier, filming the show versus watching the show, 2 completely different experiences. Because I'm watching it live like everybody else. I didn't get special treatment. They didn't send me any of the episodes beforehand. So like I have no idea what they're putting in there, how they're going to portray things. They can make somebody look as though they were the villain. Ellie from my season, nicest human being on the planet, and they made her look like she was extremely mean. And I didn't really agree with that, because she's literally the kindest person on this earth. But it's just the power of editing, and it's what you sign in the contract when you sign a 70-page contract. Probably should have read it, but I was like, just get me on this island so I can get this over with. Oh, Jeff has his own villa. Then he takes helicopters everywhere, so it's an easy life for him.
Are there like boundaries on the island? Like,
there is.
where are you like allowed to go?
It's like a bubble, like Hunger Games. You can't go past.
Yeah, the islands the islands are big, but they won't let you walk the whole thing. So like you'll be walking the path, and then there'll be a sign that says you cannot go further than this. And like they're not gonna hide an idol right past there, so you're never allowed to go. But so they're really good about it. I always felt safe. I never felt scared at night because, you're with other people.
What, you said that it's like an hour boat ride between each island.
No. But between the mainland and like all the, it's like 20 minutes. It could be like 20, 25 minutes though.
Don't you have like time on the boat to decide before tribal council?
This is a great question. This is because this never gets aired. So when 10 minutes before leaving for tribal council, they will say, okay guys, we're in lockdown. And it's because the cameras need to go from that location to the next. You cannot speak during lockdown. You can't even look at other people and like give eye contact. They have 2 or 3 people always watching you because they don't want to miss anything off camera because it's very hard for them to explain things if it happens off camera. So you are in lockdown. You can't even go up and say, can you tie my shoes for me? Like they will freak out. So, and obviously, the little dinghy boats that they show, we don't actually take those. They put us, they'll get the shot of us driving away and then we'll have to get on these other boats and we all have to go underneath the boats and all the windows are blacked out. We can never see where we're going. And you have a producer sitting, staring at you, watching every single one of you, like every single one of us. Make sure we're not speaking. So, and that was pregame too. We were with each other for 6 days before starting to film and we could not speak for 6 days. If we had a question, we had to go up and whisper it to production. And you don't have your phone, so you can't Google anybody. You have nothing. So that was a and you sleep in tents. They treat us like it's Survivor boot camp when you get there. They're trying to prepare us. So we sleep in tents. We have to wake up at 5 a.m. and we have to go and sit at a table and then we have to do different like stations for media, wardrobe checks, stuff like that. But you're in lockdown. You cannot speak. All right. Anybody have, yes?
So you said at the beginning there, you kind of have to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes.
All these difficult times. And I know you said other people have helped you, but there must have been times when those other people weren't around. So are there things, like, do you talk to yourself? Are there things that you say to yourself to kind of help you deal with those situations?
Absolutely. So kind of how I get through it is I always come up with small goals. When I wake up in the morning, what do I want to accomplish for the day? In my practice, in my workout, in any of my day-to-day stuff. And I know that all those small goals are helping me for the big goals, but it's like the days that I wake up and I don't have motivation. I don't want to go to the track. I don't want to go to the gym. I talk about always find your why. Like, why are you doing this? And using like the answer to that question to motivate you. And then I typically just tell myself, just get through the workout because you're going to feel better and you're going to come out a lot better than you were yesterday. So it can be very difficult because it's a lot easier said than done. Just show up. Even if you're contemplating it the whole time, I'll literally be driving and I'm like, I don't want to do this. And I will get to the track and I will sit there for like 30 minutes before I get out of the car because I'm just trying to mentally prepare myself so I can get out and I can actually accomplish something in that day. It's very difficult because, some of the workouts, anything you do, like you can be like, why am I doing this if I'm not getting any better? And you always want to find that one memory of like when you did accomplish it or you had a good day, you had a good practice, you had a good work day, you accomplished something. Find that memory and remember what it felt like and then try to accomplish it again. It's like, that's kind of what I tell myself. I'm always talking to myself during practices and I'm always like, especially right now I'm training without a coach. I wanted a break from going to Boston every single day. I didn't want to deal with the traffic. I was kind of sick of dealing with it. So I was just getting my workouts from my coach and I'm envisioning what he would be telling me during my workouts. It's like I'm visually trying to see it. And if you can visually see something and you can see yourself accomplishing it, it will help motivate you. So I always think about, Paris 2024, but then how am I going to get there? These are the things that I need to do. Keeping a journal is huge in the track and field world because you need to keep track of, your times. You need to keep track of your distance when you're jumping, stuff like that. And every single day you can just write notes down. I've learned that like journaling actually helps a tremendous amount with anything in your everyday life. Just kind of writing it down, even if it's on your phone. I know that's terrible to say because technology, but I'm not the biggest person to be writing everything down in my journal. I always complain my hands cramping. So like I'll use my phone, I'll have my notes and like I'll always just check back to that. Sorry, I'm rambling. But so it's typically, it's also help that like I've been an athlete all my life, so I know kind of what to deal with when I'm just going through that difficult moment. But if I'm ever struggling with something, especially, that's when I reach out to my mentors, my people that, you know, are amputees, that understand like if I'm going through something, like people who are mentors that I compete against. I compete against these 3 Italians who are insane. I was having a lot of socket issues. I was having a lot of alignment issues, and they were incredible. And I'm actually going out to Italy at the end of this month so that they can design a whole new running blade for me, because, you know, you can't beat them, join them, honestly. Like, it's just, it's getting to that point. So I just kind of use other people. I keep saying it. It's just like you want to find, you just find it. Just find that.
You don't have access to those other people.
Yeah.
And you have that self-doubt.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice of like how to deal with that? Because amazing what you've done and the people who supported you.
Mm-hmm.
But not everybody has kind of that same access, do they? So
Yeah, no.
Kind of any advice that you would have for people that, you know, maybe just only have themselves?
Yeah, a lot of the times I get this question a lot. It's like, yeah, like you have an incredible support system. What if you don't have that? My suggestion is try to either find it, reach out to people. I mean, social media, you know, is a terrible thing, but it also can be a beautiful thing. I was like reaching out to anybody who had the same disability as me in the beginning, but I was also just trying to think of, you know, what do I want to accomplish in my life? And what do I want to do? And in the beginning, it was, I want to be a normal person. I don't want to limit myself just because I have a disability. So what can I do to help that? And so that was me throwing myself into lacrosse. That was me throwing myself into track. Trying new things can be extremely healthy, even if you're failing. I told myself, I am going to fail every single time before I start something new. And I'm going to fail tons of times. I will probably fail 100 times before I can even accomplish it. Never give up. If you truly love something, never give up. If you can just always remember that feeling of loving an activity, a sport, or a hobby, never give up on it. Because if you can just work that hard for that one small moment is worth it. But yeah, stuff like that.
What are you training for Paris? Like what events?
So I only did the 100 for the whole first 4 years. I am now competing in a brand new event. I'm starting the long jump. So I'll be doing the long jump and the 100 meter. So we will see how the long jump goes. Yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you.
Just amazing story of how you presented.
Thank you.